All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the history of the beautiful game to try and figure out what truly wins matches. If you really want to understand how deep strategy, geography, and just sheer human willpower collide, forget the military battlefield. Just look at a football pitch. We're going to be unpacking a massive clash of ideologies today. Is ultimate victory actually claimed by a rigid, perfectly calculated tactical blueprint, or is it won by raw human invention? Okay, let's kick things off with a legendary quote from Celtic manager Jock Stein. This perfectly summarizes his team's 1967 European Cup final victory. He said, "We did it by playing football, pure, beautiful, inventive football." And look, this wasn't just typical post-match bragging. This quote perfectly sets up the ideological clash we're exploring in this explainer, the battle between joyous, relentless attacking play and absolutely unyielding, cynical defense. It really was the classic unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. So that brings us to the massive, overarching question of this explainer. In this ultimate tug-of-war of football ideologies, what actually matters more? Is it the rigid mathematical system you draw up on a chalkboard? Or is it the human heart of the players who are out there bringing it to life on the grass? Let's find out. Section 1. The Tactical Chessboard. Lisbon, 1967. Let's drop right into the Estadio Nacional for an epic battle that essentially treated the pitch like a giant game of chess. To really understand the stakes of this era, you have to look at these two extreme philosophies side by side. On one hand, you've got these highly structured, specialized defensive systems designed purely to suffocate the opponent. And on the other, you have fluid, aggressive, interchangeable attacking play. Back then, formations weren't just tactical guidelines. They were deeply held national identities. Section 2. The Art of the Doorbolt. First up, let's explore the immovable object. This illustrates the Italian system famously known as Catenaccio, which literally translates to doorbolt, and that's exactly what it was. Inter Milan didn't care at all about entertaining the crowd, They used this incredibly cynical yet brilliant 11-man defensive structure. It relied heavily on strict man marking and keeping a very deep sweeper to just completely lock down the game the second they took a lead. Now, I want you to look at this number, 0. That represents the exact number of corner kicks Inter Milan won in that entire 1967 final. Because they scored an early penalty, they just retreated into this legendary defensive shell, entirely abandoning any pretense of attacking so they could just absorb pressure. But hey, the doorbolt definitely didn't die in the 60s. Fast forward to Greece's miraculous 2004 European Championship victory. Coach Otto Rehhagel used a total throwback, highly rigid strategy against a footballing world that had mostly moved on to zonal marking. He went back to strict man marking, kept a spare sweeper to plug the gaps, and the result? They relentlessly neutralized the best attackers in the world, basically stealing wins via perfectly timed set pieces. Section 3. The Attacking Revolution. Now flip the script completely. We are looking at the exact opposite end of the tactical spectrum, the unstoppable force. In stark contrast to Inter's 0 corners, look at this staggering number, 39. After going down early, Celtic unleashed an unbelievable 39 attempts on goal. I mean, they literally had their fullbacks crossing the halfway line to join the attack. It was a complete and utter barrage. But look, as this breakdown shows, trying to penetrate meticulously organized defenses like that is just agonizing work. Out of those 39 attempts, 13 were saved, 7 were blocked or deflected, 2 hit the crossbar, and 19 completely flew off target. It took well over an hour of exhausting, frustrating, heavily physical effort before Celtic could finally break the doorbolt. So this relentless attacking mindset eventually morphed into something even more radical in the Netherlands. We're talking about total football, or total football in the 1970s. This was a total conceptual revolution. The core idea was that the pitch size itself was flexible. You expand it as wide as possible when you have the ball, and you aggressively compress it the second you lose it. Players continuously interchanged positions like a fluid organism, operating with a strict rule to win possession back within 6 seconds. There was no holding your position. If a defender charged up the field, a midfielder immediately dropped back to cover. And the high priest of this incredibly demanding system was Johan Cruyff. His unique spatial awareness and his sheer lack of physical bulk meant he couldn't play as a traditional target man, so he was forced to just roam the pitch. By dropping deep into midfield, he dragged his man markers right along with him. This completely pulled rigid defensive systems totally out of shape, opening up massive spaces for his teammates to exploit. Section 4. Breaking the system, data on the pitch. Okay, we've talked philosophy, but let's actually look at the statistical reality here, specifically focusing on Ajax's 1972 European Cup victory over Inter Milan. While that team is widely remembered as the flawless prototype for modern possession football, their data from 1972 is fascinating. They relied heavily on crosses to enter the box, over 50% of their entries, which is considered super inefficient today. And get this, neither team completed a single through ball in that entire match. Zero.
Plus, modern data analysts would literally be tearing their hair out over this. Both teams utilized a really heavy shoot-on-sight policy. They were frequently taking incredibly low-value shots from super long range. It just goes to show you that even the most revolutionary tactical systems look a bit chaotic when you examine them through a modern data lens. The actual execution is rarely as clean as the chalkboard theory.
Section 5. System versus human heart. Because here's the absolute kicker. Behind every strict formation are actual human beings who have to operate under immense pressure. Look back at Celtic's 1967 triumph. The Lisbon Lions were quite literally a neighborhood team. Actually, think about that for a second. In an era of globally scouted squads, it is absolutely mind-blowing that all but 2 of their players were born within 10 miles of their home stadium. They went out there, faced down a heavily funded global Italian powerhouse, and won through sheer, unyielding defiance.
Take their flamboyant fullback Tommy Gemmell. He scored that vital equalizer by basically clubbing an effort of awesome power right past the goalkeeper. He lived his entire life with this profound bravery. His personal mantra was, "Why should a living man ever complain?" And that right there shows us that while formations absolutely dictate the flow of the game, it's the specific courage, personality, and human heart of the players that ultimately shatters the defensive lines.
And we saw that exact same human element pop up again with Greece in 2004. Their defensive masterclass, that incredibly rigid man-marking system, it only worked because the players entirely sacrificed their individual egos. They created this unbreakable familial bond, literally running themselves into the ground to cover for each other tirelessly. They didn't have a Zidane or a Ronaldo. They had sacrifice, and they had the pure determination to execute an exhausting system perfectly. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this one final thought. In our modern era of football, an era completely dominated by supercomputers, endless data blueprints, and globally assembled billionaire squads, can the human heart still defy the numbers? Can a hyperlocal team, or an underdog bound purely by spirit, still break the ultimate tactical system? What do you think matters most? Thanks so much for joining me to explore this incredible history, and I'll see you in the next explainer.